Hello and welcome to this episode of Ron's Reviews. I'm Brian Berenshausen here with our usual host and reviewer extraordinaire, Ron McFarland. Today's a special episode, an interview episode. We're pleased today to have with us author Jos Groen, who is the author of the recent publication Opening Up to Talent Management. That book is part of the Open Perspective series from the open organization community. Now, the Open Perspective series is a set of short, timely, openly licensed publications from the Open Organization Project, in which voices from our community expound, if you will, and outline different issues related to organizational culture, design, and leadership. And they explore what they consider the most pertinent and pressing issues facing modern organizations today. And we're pleased to have Jos with us today to talk about his installment in the series. Ron, Jos, thanks for being with us. And Ron, over to you.
Okay, very good, very good. And first, I ought to thank you, Jos, for writing this article because I read it and it brought home a lot of the problems let's say, a lot of problems to the forefront that I would like to address. And I've been involved in most of my career has been overseas sales or overseas sales training. And really, I've been in the area of market development and corporate development, really for new markets and such. And when I read your article, some questions and some concerns and some, let's say, challenges that we all have to face came to the front. So I'll just go through these questions and I just typed it on so the viewers can see the questions. And then we'll just go from there. Is that okay?
Yeah, for me, that's okay, Ron. And it's an honor that you have me in your series. And I'm happy to contribute on any topic from an open org perspective. So it's okay. And I'm just happy that you have some questions for me.
Okay, very good. Okay, so I'll just go on to the first question. The first question is, can you discuss the meaning of transformation over just improving existing company processes? I know that we hear a lot about transformation and such, and I've always thought about company improvements and such. But how does transformation differ in your mind?
Well, thank you for that question. You know, it's a choice whether you choose transformation or whether you choose change from a leadership perspective. Transformation in itself, it depends on nature. You know, like in nature, you have energy and you have matter. And if you talk about energy, you know, energy, you can't start or stop energy from flowing. But you can direct it and you can transform it in a way that you will have it flowing to the points in an organization you want to flow to or where the organization wants it to flow to. So transforming is about shifting energy in the direction where you want it to go. And it goes from inside out. So it's an inside out movement of energy. And if you talk about transformation, you know, as humans, we are nature. So transformation is about getting our head, our heart, and our gut feelings involved in decision making and the way we act. And it's totally different with change. You know, change is energy that's being directed from the outside to the inside. So it's in most organizations, it's coming from top down to the bottom. Probably, you know, any direction you get from your board or your directors, they say, well, you've done a great job, and now we want you to do it like this way. And then you feel a kind of resistance, resilience to upward to such a direction of energy that wants to come from outside to within. But you have a choice. You accept it or you don't. But doing things you intrinsically don't want to do is draining energy. And I think that's the main difference between transformation and change. You know, if you are in transformation, you do the things energy wants to flow. So it feels good, it feels natural. And it's about change, you know, you feel more resilience at the beginning. So if you lead a company, you have the choice if you want to change, if you want to move forward to a new perspective in your organization, you know, you have to leave some old patterns and you have to build new ones. You can do it from directing it from top down to the people, Or you can say, well, people, let's explore here. Just be curious. What's the next thing that's wanting to happen here? And how do we accept, or how do we go with the flow of this challenge? And that's where transformation is more durable energy. It's more sustainable in the direction you give to the organization than change. Change is mostly for the short term, and transformation is a more durable, long-term perspective. So,
Okay.
just give a small example. We all know the caterpillar process. So caterpillars become butterflies. And I think the nice thing is you can't command a caterpillar to come out. Only when the conditions are right, it will transform and show itself as a butterfly. So that's expressing as a metaphor for transformation and change.
Okay, so more of an internal out. So you're talking about really frontline people. They could be leaders and said frontline people really looking at the current situation and have a strong desire to, let's say, move in a different direction or move in a more productive direction for the future, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, one of the
good.
things, having, because maybe this is unfair, but having read and edited the work with you, Jos, one of the things that really struck me too about this distinction that you're making was the fact that transformation is often, as I understand it, as you posited in the book, it's more structural, right? It involves transformation involves deep structural change, whereas change can be sort of course correction without any fundamental structural change to the organization, right? So things come from the outside, as you said, the organization decides how to respond. Maybe it, shifts direction or something like that, but it doesn't really overhaul its own processes, its culture, its way of doing things. It might pedal harder in one direction instead of another or something like that. But transformation, as you said, is a sort of internally motivated process whereby the organization actually, shifts how it works, what it strives to do, how it generates value, how it treats people, how it cultivates leaders. And that is more what you mean by transformation. It's sort of deeper seated, more structural. Or at least that's how I read it in your book.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's more fundamental in all layers of human beings and organizations, what change is about. So it's not a trick or just something you do. This is a kind of more how you look at life and what your open perspective is to life, and balancing, the organizational beliefs and human beliefs, and balancing results and growth of people. It's balancing people and business. It's a whole other perspective to look at an organization. It's more based upon the organic way to grow and to develop. And it's about letting go of control and ego, actually.
Very good. Okay, shall I move on now?
Yeah.
Here is the second question. You mentioned that an organization requires a clear core direction and strong identity, and that is not easy. So how do you do that?
Well, Ron, let me state clearly that it's not about pushing a button and then it's there. Transformation is a process. It's about discovery. It's about being curious, actually. But the core direction is about finding the deep essence of the organization's existence. For example, in the Netherlands down here, we have an online and retail chain that provides electronic equipment for the home, the use at home, computers, stuff like that. And they have this one sentence who says it all. It is anything for a smile. Anything for a smile. So if that's the core direction, the core belief of your organization, you only find people working for your company who are deeply committed to this anything for a smile type of thing. You go and work there, you have to work hard, it's harsh, but you do anything just to bring the smile upon the face of a customer. Or maybe the smile upon the face of your colleague or a client or some people you work with. But it's a direction, it's a belief to which you deeply commit from inside, from intrinsic motivation, you commit yourself. But it also provides instant clarity about what is meant and what is not meant by being who you are as a company. No, it's about getting to the deep essence of everything, actually.
Okay, so basically your leader is presenting what the core direction is and getting buy-in from people and getting them to believe in that same core direction, right?
Yeah, maybe I can give you another example how it worked in one of my last assignments. We choose mastery because we were a software developing company and people were really committed to the word mastery. But mastery is for every individual, it has a whole different meaning. It has a whole different, it resonates in a different way with each system, each individual system, in feeling, in heart, in gut, and head. But if you can develop your own intrinsic system to connect to the mastery principle, then things will flow automatically. Instantly, okay, this is okay to do, this is not okay to do. So now it gives so much direction in your own, it gives so much empowerment really for people also. So I think having a core direction it's not only about language, it's about getting into the deeper layers of a human system to connect to the core direction. And if you are connected, that's where the magic happens. People will show creativity, ingenuity, that will lead to innovation. And that's really what you want as a company, that your people are contributing to the overall success of your organization.
Very good. Brian, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think Jos pretty much said everything I would contribute.
Okay, very good. Okay, I'll carry on to the next question then. Okay, could you explain joy that you write about? This is very significant in energy generation or generating energy in a company. And I found when you use that term several times actually in the article, I think, I really tied into that because joy really energizes the entire organization. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, joy for me, it's if you work and you have a life and you don't experience any joy, what are you living for? Or what are you working for? Joy is for me is an expression and a feeling you get when you perceive a kind of happiness in your work. Just that you're happy that you can contribute to anything you like to do, that you can share ideas, that you can be creative, that you can be yourself in your working environment, and that it's safe for you to be yourself in a working environment. And that's really that joy is a feeling, it's a state that you feel when you do what you do from your unique essence. And there is this levels of consciousness matrix from Dr. David Hawkins. And maybe you know, but maybe you don't know. But there's several levels in consciousness that are really interesting to know about. But joy is in the same awareness level like love and like gratitude. So if you experience or you can live love and joy and gratitude, it's a deeper awareness in which there is synchronicity and in which you can achieve extraordinary outcomes as an organization. So for example, we talk a lot about pride, but pride is only expression of hyperactivity. It's a whole different level of consciousness in your organization. That's why I love to use the word joy, because you immediately know what joy is about and what you should do to experience joy. So, and that's about directing energy, and also, that's what transformation is about.
Yeah, it's fascinating when you're mentioning that. I'm just thinking over my career when I first started here again. I come out of the automotive industry, the Japanese automotive industry. And my very first job in the company really was training within the company, really language, because everyone obviously is speaking in Japanese. And I was trying to set up English language programs. And I hated the content, but I loved the people. I mean, we had tennis teams and we had baseball teams and we're going to concerts and we're barbecuing together. And we had this huge which are called communication drinking parties and such. So the group was really fun, but I didn't like the content of the job. And then I was transferred to another department where I really didn't like the people, but I loved the content. And that's where I got my joy, and that's where I got my energy. And when I started developing an overseas sales training program, then I started falling in love with the dealers and the salesmen and such. So joy, you're right. Joy comes from many, many different directions, and it's different for every individual.
Yeah. But it's a kind of a mental state, you know, you can get addicted to joy. If you don't experience joy, you know, you lack energy, or you drain energy.
Yeah, that's fascinating because over my career, I remember I would want to have a job that I really enjoyed doing. I really wanted to do that. The boss didn't have to tell me what to do. I just really enjoyed it, so I did it automatically. And
Yeah.
that point you're bringing about joy and energy and doing automatic is very, very important, I think.
Well, I think, Ron, now we talk about it, there's another perspective you can look at joy, you know. I think I've seen I'm aware that a lot of people doing work but not enjoying their work. So they don't experience joy, but they do their job just to earn some money. You know, and that's where it's sometimes get dangerous, because if you don't do what you love to do, you know, you have maybe, you know, there's balance between work and private. So in one of those two, if you got a knockdown and then you fall really deep, you know, that's where burnout is going to happen. So please do the work that you enjoy, that you experience joy with, because it gives us a kind of fulfillment in life. And that's what I would love to have everyone to have in their job.
Very good. Shall I move on, or Brian, do you have any comments?
Yeah.
No, I'm just really glad that you zeroed in on that aspect of the publication, Ron, because it's also something that stood out to me. So I was glad to hear Jos talk about it.
Very good. Okay, I'll move on now. Okay, next, could you define a hybrid organization? It's an interesting name for me, and I've never heard that word, Jos. I've never heard of a hybrid organization before. So could you explain what a hybrid organization is?
Well, hybrid is the title of my own company, so that's that's a fact. But it comes from somewhere, because we talked about transformation, we talked about joy, we talked about how energy is flowing and how you can direct it to core directions and so on. Um, so when you choose to transform to a to explore direction with your organization, you know, you immediately enter the hybrid phase. So it means that with one foot you are in the old world, with the old behaviors and the old beliefs and the old way of communication, and with the other foot you are discovering the new, which invites you to totally new conditioning, totally new behaviors, the ways of looking at things, the way you build beliefs with each other. And the hybrid is about, on the one hand, you know, looking at the old situation and adopt what's good, and to let go of what's not helping anymore. And that letting go is quite a difficult thing to do as a leader, when you move from what it is now into a direction you don't have control of the end point. You know, letting go of control is a huge challenge for, I think, most of the leaders and most of the director and board members in the world. And stepping into a hybrid phase is also about unlearning what you've been conditioned to do. So it's about being curious. So if it doesn't help you anymore, just leave it behind and move forward. Just be curious and just learn new things, because it's being in a hybrid, it is a process of becoming more aware about what works and what not. So it seems quite easy to explain, but in practice, you know, this is a very hard thing to experience and to live through, because there's all different challenges for your head, for your ecosystem, for your beliefs, for your feelings, for your heart conditioning. So, transforming is going more about being aware and having the consciousness over your own inner self than only the expression of behaviors you have on the outside of your body. It's
Right.
strong hybrid
You'll
is,
notice the icon I put here. I've got two men, and
yeah,
you've got connections between them. And everything you were saying, really, it was the feeling I got from this icon here. You've got two minds going on. You've got to let go of what is not working, and you've got to continue to use what is really working. And then you've got to seek out things you really don't know about. So that's learning, and that's going to, let's say, somewhere where you've never gone before. So it's really a challenge, isn't it?
yeah, it is a challenge. And sometimes you can express it's like, okay, if you keep doing what you do, you get the results you'll expect. So actually, you are learning backwards at this moment in this fast changing times. And if you choose transformation, choose to move forward, you are learning forward as well. But you have to be open. You have to be curious about the new things you have to learn to move forward. And the best way is to do it with people who are one step ahead of you, so you can do it together.
Right. Brian, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I know that this is a core concept for Jos. It's central to his work. That's why his company is called Hybrid. But I would, it's something that always stands out to me is, Jos is doing the work of figuring out how to negotiate this phase, right? Jos is, having read his other work and things like that. I know that Jos's argument is that you don't just make a decision, flip a switch, and become a different organization. You will always exist for quite a while in a hybrid state while you're making a series of transitions. And it's that hybrid state where the real work happens and where the real negotiations take place and where you need a real mentor to help in some cases with those transitions. It's not just an easy, we're gonna make this decision and tomorrow we're gonna be there. And Ron, you say like, we need to figure out what we're giving up or what's not working and give that up as we transition to a new thing. The challenge is that usually what's not working is working for somebody in the organization, right? It's working for someone. Otherwise it would have just kind of stopped happening kind of naturally. But so Jos's work is in many ways about how you have to encourage people to come along on your transformation journey with you, and ways you can use open principles to do that, because oftentimes discarding what's not working is also not easy because it's working for someone and they don't want to give it up. So just an observation, maybe unfair for the audience because I'm drawing on Jos's previous writing, but something that stood out to me.
No, I love the addition, Brian, because there's so many things happening in all layers in your organization and in the individual. And it's not always going into the same time or at the same moment, the same step, So it's a huge challenge as a leader just to keep the connection up with everybody in your organization, to keep them helping, setting the step forward, which is needed into the new direction at the time it suits them. It's not about that it suits me, it needs to suit them at the time they are ready for it. And sometimes people experience that they don't feel attracted to setting this step, So they seek happiness and work elsewhere. But then it's a natural process, and then it's a choice of themselves, And if people do that, it gives you a new opportunity to attract people who are fitting probably better into the new direction. So, but you have to let go of control.
Okay, let me carry on here a little bit. I think a lot of what you're saying is going to come out in these other questions as well, because it's all here again. The core really is this hybrid situation, but it comes back in many of my questions here in different ways. So let me continue on. How do you convince people that change can take place? This is a motivational thing, and of course, it ties into this movement and improvement. So what do you think about that, Jos, in terms of some people have to be convinced that they can make positive changes. So how do you go about doing that?
Well, if you ask me how do you convince people, my answer would be you don't. Because transformation is about inviting people to contribute and to share ideas, and so they can identify themselves what is willing to happen. So it's not about convincing, it's more, a dance of how you meet your first girlfriend. There has to be some extraction, some attractiveness. You have to invite people just to, oh, let's look at it this way, let's look at it this way. I know, and I hear what you're saying. So what you hear and say is true, but maybe you can look at it this way or that way. So you put in the invitations. So people are going to think or just feel themselves, okay, well, I think that could be a good idea, so I flow with it, and then then the transformation happened within the person itself as well. But you have to give people a choice. But this is really about not only the head exercise, but convincing is a head exercise, but this is more about involving heart and gut as well into the decision making and the way you move forward. And that's the trick.
Yeah, maybe this is not really directly connected, but when I was involved with sales training, I would always have some salespeople that would just say, I'm not a salesman, I can't sell. And I would ask, I would break the sales process into little tiny pieces and ask some questions. For example, can you talk? He said, yeah, I can talk. Well, can you make a telephone call and ask one question? Yes, I can do that. And I'm breaking it down into little tiny pieces. And as you go through of all those little tiny pieces, all of a sudden there is the whole selling process. So initially he thinks he cannot do it. And then later on, if I break it down into little pieces, and I think you're saying the same thing when you give people chances to try things. They try it, they fail, they may change it and such. As you move forward, maybe convincing is not the right word here. It's just a process of changing people's confidence from a low level of confidence to a higher level of confidence. But it's broken down to such small pieces that you don't really feel the flow. If you
Yeah,
follow what I mean at all.
I think that is so true, Ron, what you're saying, because you know sometimes I get into discussions as well, and the only thing I hear is that the argument that things are not possible. So most of the time I'm sit back and hang backwards and just say, I've heard all this, but what is possible? And then you change the mindset to a whole other direction. And then people come with the answers and the possibilities as well. But that's the process, and sometimes you have to break it down to the core of the things like you did. And yeah, but that's the invitation you give people. Just give them the confidence and awareness of what they can do.
Brian, do you have any thoughts on that?
Nope. But you all have more experience doing that kind of work than I do. So I'll
Okay,
take your word.
I just wanted to
No,
cover the
thank you.
basis before I move on. Huh? Okay, very good. Let me carry on then. Now, this is an interesting one. The board. Usually, boardrooms are strictly people representing shareholders. Here again, they're representing the owners of the company, the money people. So how can you get more leaders on the board? Your suggestion is a good one and a significant one. So how do you go about doing that, Jos?
Well, for the people seeing this program, the suggestion is that boards have to open up and just have to invite leaders, open leaders into the board, just to collaborate to move forward collectively together. There's no right or wrong being in the board or being open. I'm just saying, well, if you start to collaborate and just learn forward together, I think that's the best possible choice you can make as a board, just to embrace the new energies, the new ways of looking at things open leaders bring to table. So that's the invitation there is for board. Ron, I have to be honest, but this is really a hard one because, we all have been conditioned on the left brain side, strategic thinking, being in control. We can make this, we can do this, stuff like that. But our conditioning, our ego, and our lack of awareness is in the way, in a kind of way. So the only way is to invite people to become aware of the potential of inviting new leaders to the table, to the board. So here again, it is about invitation. It is about attractiveness of, if you're open to it, let's explore what's new. What can we do to achieve the new goals, to bring things forward? And it's quite simple. If you're not open to it, don't try. Then it's a failure instantly. Because if you don't, it's a matter of keeping the status quo and learning backwards, like I told before. So you keep doing what you know, and so you get the results you know. And possibly in those organizations, the pain is not hard enough to get into action right away or to act right away. But if you're open to it, if you are curious as a leader and you have this joyful, playful inner child still within you, and you can connect to it, you think, oh, wow, maybe let's try this, let's try that. You're curious and you're just open to explore the new. And if leaders in the board are open to it and see that there's another dimension, not only the shareholder, but there's human interest as well, because your people want to grow and develop as well. And if you balance it, it is not an if or, it is an and situation. So they can stimulate each other. But if the people in the board are open to it, they just have to do it and start, learning forward, developing forward. And it's about, like I said, it's about curiosity and being intrinsically motivated as a human being, not only as a shareholder gatekeeper, but as a human being to explore new terrains and explore new ideas, explore new ways of acting, new ways of behavior, and that's where organizations who are open to embrace leaders into the board, you can see that they speed up in innovation, they speed up in talent management, they speed up in attracting young talents to the organization. So, and that again, in its essence, is about energy.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about this, I work with a consultant on the East Coast of the United States, and her main target was in the companies is right in the area of $50 million in sales. Now, that's a pretty small company where it's got to be over 100,000 wherever you 100,000 or 100 million before you ever could consider an IPO or anything. She was in that $50 million sales range. And she was always recommending, really, you've got to have people on your board that loves the operations, loves the customer, loves the product, not just money people there. You've got to have someone, and I think, Jos, when you mention leadership, someone really loves the activities that the organization was really created for, the purpose of the organization. If you had a leader that really loved that, basically he or she would sell the concept to the other members within the board, even though probably half of them are strictly money people that just want a return on their investment. So this leadership talent within the board, I think that's an important one, and I think it's something we have to continue to explore.
Yeah, I think that is one of the, from my perspective, it is so basic that you only do things you believe in, even if you are in the board. So if you believe in the product you're selling and you believe it, so you lift, you embrace what is happening, you put a whole different energy on the direction than if you don't care and just care about only the money. That's why a lot of companies these days are delegating diversity and inclusivity to HR, but if you don't embrace it and embody it as a leader, you never get energy in your organization getting automatically, organically, a flow of diversity and inclusivity in your organization. It's the same with sales. If you have someone in the board who doesn't believe in sales or doesn't embody or embrace sales, it's only you can only do it on the service level. It's not in a deeper level. So it's such a crucial thing to know and to be aware of as a leader in the board, that this is making a huge difference in how the energy in your company will flow. It's I think we have to create more awareness about that aspect in the board. For
Very
sure.
good. Brian, any thoughts on that?
No, nothing from me, just because I don't have a lot of experience in this area, working with boards, but it's always something I appreciate about Jos's writing, because he's always very reflexive about the role of the board in an organization. I think too little writing that I read on organizational dynamics takes that into account. And again, it's very specific. Jos is talking about for-profit organizations, but nonprofits have governing boards as well. And so it's a dynamic that's really important in a lot of organizations that I think is under-discussed. So always appreciate being able to read it in Jos's work.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of boards really are removed from the daily business and the management. Obviously, they're usually the CEO, he's on the board, and sometimes he's just a finance guy himself. But a lot of boards really don't have the love of the activities of the company. And I think that, as I say, it comes back to Joseph's word of leadership. The leadership and the purpose of the organization should have a feeling within the board members, at least someone there to promote that feeling within the board. Huh?
Yeah.
I know Japan here is very, very long term in terms of their investment strategy. And they would have something like anywhere, recent times is a little bit different, but they would have 80-90% of the people on the board are actually employees or prior employees. So most of them came out of management. And then you've got a few bankers there, and you've got through major customers there. But most of them were right out of management. So they had this long-term concept. It was just not quick money as such. And now that's changed in the last 5-8 years, where the Japanese have really had to go out and get capitalized outside of Japan. And now it's changing where you've got outside participants. And I know in Europe, you've been extremely good in having union members on the board, talking on behalf of the employees. And the Europeans, I think, do a much better job of having employee represented union people sitting on the board to make sure that the employees are represented at the board level. So you've got a lot of dynamics here. But my feeling is this leadership and love of company, really.
Yeah, I guess so, Ron. And you say the word love, so that's about the higher form of awareness according to Dr. Hawkins' pyramid. So, if you experience love or for your company or for your product or for your people or joy, it's all different energy flowing in your organization. So true what you're saying.
Very good. Okay, I'll carry on here. My last question. How do you get people to move away from positions they are comfortable with and move to activities that are new to them? Now, that's always scary for everybody, so I thought I'd throw that question out.
Yeah, I love that question, Ron, because sometimes I'm a bit playful and just talking to boards and say, well, why don't you just shuffle every 2 or 3 years your board members throughout the organization? And they say, well, it's not that's not a good idea, and they always tell me why you can't do it, but I believe if you do it, you keep a kind of a state of learning and reinventing yourself and reinventing the organization and reinventing joy in your organization every time and again. But that's not the answer to your question. But how do you get them to move away? In fact, I think this is about a deep fear, a deep conditioned fear in people of letting go of positions, but also ego, material issues, and maybe it's more that they fear the judgment of others, that you leave the position you fought for, where your life's work you've put into this position, and then you leave it because of maybe another type of leader or another person can do a better job. If you're in a low state of awareness, that's true, because then you see everybody as a competitor. But if you are aware of next steps of your organization, and just if you step back, then you're giving your organization a chance to improve, to move forward or move ahead. In fact, that's a beautiful thing to do. But as we know, it's a hard thing to do, because you have to let go of something you've built your ecosystem on. And I think that's
yeah, I know that there are some companies that really look at this question as a major challenge. So major, maybe they're growing so fast that they don't want anyone to just do one thing. They're growing so fast that so they have maybe a personnel, how do I say it? A personnel policy of spend at least 20% of all your time doing something that is absolutely nothing to do with your current job. Just go play with something. Go do something else. Don't do your current job, which you're really good at. Go do something strange or odd. Go sit in another department and ask them what they're doing. Go find out why accounting people really like accounting, or something like that, and try to give them some experience. So maybe over time they're gradually moving away from that comfortable situation, which is comfortable, and then they move to another area which they can develop and become comfortable in the future. And it's a long process.
Yeah, I think that's true, Ron, because I think there's a lot of very large consulting companies all over the world saying these tips and these hints to board members, just to keep shuffling and just rotating, board members and management around, just to keep everyone fit for the job and fit in their head and fit in their bodies. But because this consultancy work is a kind of a head exercise, and they don't feel the urgency, it's not going to happen. So sometimes you have the situation that someone from outside is stepping into the board and saying, well, we have to change things here. So he can choose change and just send some people away just to have new energy into the board. You see that happen. And sometimes a leader just gets to create some consciousness, some awareness with the other people, that it's better for them to leave behind and just accept that what they've did is a great job, but they have to move forward as well. But you have to be in a kind of relation of honesty and into some deep belief that what you are doing, what you are contributing, is the best thing for the company. And if you come to an awareness that you see that leaving is a good way just to have new talent thrive and to emerge in your organization, for me, I did it recently because I've quit my job and just created my own company, having new leaders emerging in my organization just to step forward and to take over my position. And I think if you look to it from a leadership perspective, leaderships are more aware of this, the power of this kind of vulnerability or of this self-awareness. And they don't, real leaders don't need to wait until the pain nearly kills them in an organization. So, yeah, it's only about inviting people to do so.
Very good. Brian, have any comments on that?
Nope, nothing for me. Just enjoy the conversation.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I'm not passing you by. Okay, next I would like to talk about 3 challenges that I've really run into, and I think it's part of the hybrid situation. So let me just go through this. Imagine within your organization, you want to start a new project, and I'm going to call it the Open Challenge Project Team. So you want a new project. It's not your existing business. It's a new business, because you cannot continue to run your business just on the existing products the existing customers, the existing technology. You've got to move in a new direction. Now, the automotive business, actually, the automotive business is really a mechanical industry, but it's moved away from mechanical and has more electronics in their vehicles, more that the expertise of the automobile industry has absolutely terrified people because they're mechanical people, they're transmission people, they're engine people, they're differential people, maybe they're body people and such, but they're not electronics people. So they had to move away to something completely different. And of course, in Isuzu Motors, they really didn't have the cash. They had to affiliate with Fujitsu and a lot of other electronics companies for them to survive because all of the components within the automobile is really controlled by electronics, and it terrifies them. So here again, so imagine a new team. Now a new team, this new team, it has conflicts and such, and I want to bring up three conflicts or challenges, and I would like to get your comments on it. The first challenge is competition with ongoing business for scarce resources and resources for your new project. So what do you think about that, Josh? You've got your ongoing business that wants to advertise and sell the current product and such and buy raw materials for the current project, but you've got to have money for the future too. So how would you address something like that, Josh?
Um, well, I think this is a nice use case to address because if you have an existing business and you have to move forward or you have to add new business to it, it's giving recognition and for the value of the existing business is so important because people feel valuable for what they do and what they contribute. So it keeps them motivated and they have a perspective in which they look to their value to the company and they are aware that the company is wanting to add a new perspective to the company and that's the new business type of thing. And then you can invite people from the old business saying, okay, who's open to contribute to the whole new thing? Who is open to step forward and just to contribute to the new thing? Who has the curiosity and who loves to contribute to that one? Then you get the people from the old world into the new world, but only the people who are intrinsically motivated and very curious doing so. Because normally what we do in this case is that we put the best people from the old world and say, well, we have to create a new world. You were good in the old world, so I think you are good in creating the new world as well. But that isn't true. Because on the project base, you have waterfalls, systematics, and you have agile systematics. So if you want to do the new way, you always did waterfall, and you have the new way must be agile. Please bring in a new team, just getting to do the best effort in agile. But respect the old situation with the waterfall, because waterfall could be useful in the new situation as well. But maybe not on this moment, but anywhere in the process, you have to fall back on old thoughts, on old knowledge and such. So I should try to bring in new people to the table. I should invite people from the old world, which are curious and willing to contribute into the new world. And I would really love to create some awareness of that they both are of best value if they collaborate with each other and they don't fight each other. So you have energy flowing from the new, the things they learn in the new situation could be very useful in the old situation as well. And things they've learned in the old situation could be very useful in the new situation as well. So you better create an atmosphere and of collaboration and engagement and, all the open characteristics in the new organization, so it flows back into the old organization, so it will adapt itself to the new situation more easily. So if you have the energy flowing between them and they are not fighting each other, but just open to learn, I think that is the best thing you could do in such a situation.
Yeah. The challenge that I had with this one really here, this challenge right here is I think top management has to say both of these have an important role and they both need respect. Ongoing business is where your cash is coming from, so you cannot strip all of your money from that. But on the other hand, for the future of the company, you have to also respect new projects and such. So there must be some type of balance here. And I think what you mentioned about harmony is an important one here.
Yeah, harmony and awareness.
And awareness, yeah, right. Okay, the next one is dividing. Imagine here again, you have a new project. Now you want your existing people that have expertise that can support that new project, so you can share them. They're doing their current business, but they're working on the new project as well. And then because it's a new project, you might have to go outside the company and hire people or from another project that's, for example, internally, the ongoing business doesn't need them. So you have dedicated people here. But the problem here is with these shared people. How do we share people in a way? And I was within Isuzu Motors. I was in several departments at the same time. I was involved with sales training. I was involved with language training. I was in another department which was publications creation. And really, my heart was in the sales training. So how do we balance that energy of time, energy, and attention? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think the main thought I have, Ron, as you expressed this, is that we go back to the first question. It's about transformation. So I would try to look and sense where energy is flowing from each individual. And then you can say, okay, are they open and curious to step into the new world or not? And just to give people choice. And if you have a clear view on how this dynamics is in this shared staff group, you can always decide, okay, we've looked at this, we've spoken to everyone, we heard everyone's voice, so now we add new people to the group because we have to step forward, and your value is being with the old situation, and then again we flow into the answer to the prior question. So I think for me, I should try to sense and feel and go into conversation with everyone just to hear what they think and what their thoughts are and where their energy is going. And just ride and flow with the energy that's there. And if it's not, then it's okay. But then you can give it a place. That's not because it's bad, but then you can say, okay, then this is the value you add to this situation.
Okay, very good. Okay, the last challenge. Imagine we have here again, these are regular employees that are doing the ongoing business and such, and then you bring in outside people to handle various problems. How do you get them to harmonize and to work together as a team? Do you have any feelings on that?
Yeah, I think this is practice a lot. And this is where I think a core direction could help, because then you can look for people from the dedicated team, from the external sources, which are connected in some way to the core direction. So, and I think core direction here is making things clear for the new hired employees as well, because it's like, this is how we do it. This is how we communicate with each other. This is how we behave, and they can adapt to it or not. And, as an external source, you can always choose if you love the job or not. But you have to make clear up front what you expect from them, from the, not the obvious, but more deep down in the iceberg feelings and perspectives. And if they can adapt to that. And then you can see that they have probably 50-60% of the same intrinsic motivation that the people in your organization have. And then contribution or collaborating would emerge. And if not, then my advice should be to run it just as two separate projects.
Good. Brian, do you have any thoughts on these challenges that I'm bringing up here?
No, other than to say I've enjoyed listening to Jos kind of talk through it. These are the kind of challenges that he's the expert in, so I just like to listen.
Okay, very good. Okay, that's basically all the comments that I have and the questions that I have. So thank you very much. If you want to add anything, do you have any concluding thoughts you'd like to present or say or something like that?
No, Ron, I just love the opportunity and to run through these questions. I think these are questions a lot of people have. So it's always nice to talk about this and to share thoughts, you know, and there's no wrong or right on any thought. And I think the big invitation here for people watching this or listening to this is just, you know, step up and open up and try to explore what open organization characteristics are about, and just try to transform it, just to how to transformation can bring joy back to work and come to extraordinary results. So just
Very good. Let
find
me
out
just
where the
ask
magic is.
both of you, what do you think about this format? I've got a little presentation. I ask a question and I'm reading it right off the page. Everyone can read the page and such. What do you think about this format of a discussion? Any comments, feelings, disappointments?
I like it. I get to have my coffee. I get to listen to some experts talk about organizational change. It's great.
Okay, and the information is rather easy to understand and grasp.
Well, it helps when you have the author of the work right with you, you know. That's a help.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
I
about
think
you,
this
Jose?
format
Any
is
thoughts?
working very. Yeah, I think this format it works very good. Also for me, you know, I've got invited just to join in and have this conversation. And for me, this is a structure that works very good. So I could prepare on some of the questions and some I didn't. But you know, I think that's the value of these kind of sessions, that you have to bring any spontaneously in it as well, because you know, I think that's communication is all about, just to not script everything, but just have a real conversation from very sincere interest from all parties. So I love this forward run, and for me, it's a compliment to you and also to Brian just to prepare this and have this way of doing this interview in a very, so I can answer questions in a very natural way. So I think that's a great flow to be in.
Very good. So Brian, I'll turn it back over to you. You covered all the material that I wanted to cover.
Great. Well, thanks to you both. Really enjoyed listening to this episode of Ron's Reviews. Just a reminder to everybody out there that if you want to read more open organization materials, check us out at theopenorganization.org. And also, if you want to read Jos's open perspective on talent management, opening up to leadership talent, you can find it at theopenorganization.org/books. So head on over there, grab your copy. Gentlemen, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Very good. Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.